everyone. In case you've forgotten and you've been too afraid to ask, my name is Eve Clark, and today I'll be talking about How to Write an Autobiographical Novel by Alexander Chee. So some brief background on Chee. He is Amer-Asian, in his own words, a gay man, and spent his childhood in South Korea, Guam, and Maine. His father is Korean and his mother is originally from Rhode Island. So before I get into it, I want to give you some brief trigger warnings. This book does discuss racism, police brutality, HIV/AIDS, and sexual abuse. None graphically, but they are all very central to his story, so you really can't avoid them. This book, because of my previous experience with Chee's writing, I read his essays Girl, The Writing Life, and On Becoming an American Writer my freshman year, and I really liked all of them, so I was interested to revisit his work. I love this collection because it covers so much and because the essay format kind of allows you to move around and contemplate each work fully. He talks about his experience of race within the gay community, his experience as an organizer for ACT UP in San Francisco during the height of the AIDS crisis, and his experience studying writing in college, his path to an MFA, and then to publishing his first novel. And really the heart of it is how his whole life has shaped him creatively. This book to all of you, but particularly for those of you who expressed interest in reading more about people of color involved in AIDS activism, and also for those of you who are interested in writing, because I think that there are a lot of great nuggets of wisdom about writing in this book. I personally, as someone who wants to follow the same path he did, creative writing in undergrad, MFA, and then teaching and writing at the same time, I found it really soothing that it didn't happen perfectly for him. I got a lot out of watching him talk about his struggle and then seeing that he still made it in the end, and that he's better for it creatively, having experienced everything that he did. Chee is also the author of a novel called Edinburgh, which he calls an autobiographical novel. And obviously, if you couldn't tell based on the title, but that is a lot of what this book is about. Edinburgh is inspired by his own experience with sexual abuse as a child. And I was very interested in his self-reflection and discussion of his own life writing, particularly why he chose to present Edinburgh as fiction and not as autobiography. Particularly because of the nature of memory and trauma, not wanting to present things as explicit fact when you can't trust your own memory necessarily. And he talks about uncovering a lot of memory while writing, and also as a way to give other people involved some distance from the thing. So he talks a bit about the ethics of memoir, which I thought was really interesting. Right to the part where he discusses Edinburgh, the essays are called The Autobiography of My Novel, The Guardians, and How to Write an Autobiographical Novel. While this book is great, I do have my criticism of it, and I want to be even-handed in my discussion of it. The last essay does make me cringe at parts, which is particularly disappointing because that's the author's last chance to address you, and you sort of want them to hit it out of the park. So the essay is called On Becoming an American Writer, and in it he talks a lot about the election of Donald Trump, and his main idea is being able to write through terrible things. And maybe positionality is important to this, but I found his discussion of Trump, especially after the Trump presidency, to be sort of tone deaf, because he treats Trump as the problem and not the symptom. He discusses his fears of a white supremacist, evangelical, Christian, theocratic, militaristic government who puts children in cages, targets minorities, and denies rights to women. And I think that at the point that he's writing this, he has been quite insulated for a long time by virtue of being a wealthy cis man in academia from the fact that that was a lot of people's experience pre-Trump. And reading it a year after Trump, not a ton has changed, in my opinion. He does depart from that, thank goodness, talking about the experience of writing post 9/11, and has some really important things to say about writing through tragedy. Essentially that writers struggle after tragedy because they wonder what they could possibly say to put to words what they're feeling or to comfort anyone else. And he really does not want that to stop writers. I will leave you with my favorite quote from the collection, which he ends with, because I find it really impactful. Write for your dead. Tell them a story. What are you doing with this life? Let them hold you accountable. Let them make you bolder or more modest or louder or more loving, whatever it is. But ask them in, listen, and then write. And when war comes, and make no mistake, it is already here, be sure you write for the living too, the ones you love and the ones who are coming for your life. What will you give them when they get there? I tell myself I can't imagine a story that will set them free, these people who hate me. But I am writing precisely because one did that for me. So I always remember that, and I know to write even for them. Thank you so much for listening to my review.